and welcome to episode 1 of Niche Tea, where I talk about drama happening in communities that you may not be a part of. Today's topic is the reason I decided to start this, because I wanted to have this conversation with my husband, and I realized that despite how big these people are, he doesn't actually know who Dream is. But we're talking about Dream versus Gumball. If you don't know who Dream is, here are the key highlights. He is the largest Minecraft YouTuber. He has 32 million subs. He has an extremely dedicated fan base. For the longest time, he wore a mask and no one knew what he looked like. He got caught up in a scandal where he definitely cheated on a speedrun and then made a big point of defending himself and saying he didn't cheat and then was mathematically proven to have cheated. After that, he released some music that wasn't that great, and then he revealed his face, and that did not go the way that he wanted. On the other side, we have Gumball, who is Gumball, the voice of Gumball. His name is Nicholas Cantu. He is currently 20 years of age. Dream is 24. Now to the T. These two know each other, and over the last week or so have been having an escalating Twitter beef for reasons that do not actually matter. This comes to a head with Dream eventually dropping that months ago when Cantu was still 19. They were at a party. Cantu was apparently incredibly drunk, and he started a physical altercation with Dream and actually punched him. This was not caught on camera, but Cantu doesn't deny this. And then Dream drops a video that he took from that same night of him and Cantu in an Uber, and Cantu is up front being belligerent and aggressive to the Uber driver and pretty much just being very obnoxious. In this video, he also drops the F slur and the R slur. And Dream also claimed that same night that Cantu used hard R. What makes this actually juicy and been hilarious to watch is that, like in Dream's past, this is another thing that is not going the way he thought it would. He clearly dropped that video as some kind of final 1-2 uppercut, and it has not been that at all. Pretty much the entire LGBT community came out in support of Cantu, pointing out that he has come out as pansexual in the past, so he's functionally reclaiming the F slur. The R slur is more muddy. He claims to be ADHD and autistic. As an ADHD, I don't believe that that's our word to reclaim. I'm not gonna speak for our autistic community though. But either way, people are kind of just giving him a pass. Because at this point, Dream is considered to be so obnoxious by anyone who isn't in his fan base that no one cares. Cantu also came out on Twitter and acknowledged being obnoxious to the Uber driver, saying that that was his way of realizing he needed to really calm down on drinking, and also saying that he sent him a huge tip as an apology. Cantu also categorically denied that he said anything racial in nature, especially hard R. And people are actually now coming at Dream, saying you were 24 years old in a cab acting as the guardian, functionally, of an incredibly drunk underage teenager, and instead of trying to de-escalate a situation or do anything to be helpful in the moment, you started recording him. You held on to that footage for months so that you could drop it as a gotcha to take him down later. I have to admit, that's pretty foul. He clearly knew what he was doing in that moment. Peak entertainment, just in time for the holidays. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the Minecraft community beef between Dream and Gumball. This time we're gonna talk about OG YouTuber beef between SS Sniper Wolf and Jax Films. This goes beyond tea, but no one is physically harmed. So who are these people? SS Sniper Wolf is a YouTuber who joined the platform in 2013. She's made a whole host of different types of content, but currently and most famously, she's known for reaction content. This means she takes content from other places, TikTok, other YouTube videos, etc., plays it, and her video is her reacting to it in some way. Now, reaction content as a whole is a big can of worms. We're basically just stealing someone else's content. There's a whole host of debate as to whether or not someone's reaction can be additive, transformative enough to be worth its own upload. What I'm adding by reacting is worth making its own video. SS Sniper Wolf does not do that. All of her videos are, oh, I'm reading the words on the screen. I'm saying what just happened in an excited voice. It's bad. There's no arguing that. What makes this significantly worse is that she does not credit anyone, and she makes a point to cut out any credit that might be in the videos that she's looking at. You know how with TikTok it puts people's names in the video? She will cut that out and not tag anyone, so there's no way for you to find the original content. Now, she's been called out for this plenty of times, but YouTube, the platform, does not care. She is one of their favorite creators. They use her in articles, they take her to conventions, they highlight and platform her as much as they can. She is an example of a female creator with a huge following who generates a lot of revenue for them, and they are absolutely protecting her. Jax Films is another YouTube creator who's been on the platform since about 2006, so he's an OG. He has a problem with lazy content creation generally, and especially the fact that someone who's so big can use the content of smaller creators, give them no credit, and make a ton of money off of it. So he has a particular beef, and has for a while, with people like SS Sniper Wolf. Now, since she's one of the largest creators of this type, he ended up making an entire satire channel called Jax Films, where the only content he puts out are videos of him reacting to SS Sniper Wolf's reaction videos in the same way that she reacts to the other content. It's actually one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. But more importantly, he's also giving proper credit to the people whose content in those videos SS Sniper Wolf originally stole. So he's redirecting traffic back to the people who actually created the content. S-tier work. Please take notes. Okay, on to the actual tea. Jax Films is at home. He's on Twitch playing a game. He sees in the comments, people start saying that SS Sniper Wolf posted a story to her more than 5 million Instagram followers saying that she was 5 minutes away from Jax Films' house. Should she go there? Immediate concern from everyone on the live stream. And then she posts again to her 5 million followers a picture of his house with the words, "I'm outside, come out, I just want to talk." My guy, this obviously ends the live stream. He and Jax Films' wife are extremely scared. She's just a person. She's not a YouTuber. And her address was just doxed to 5 million people who have been primed to not like her or her husband by SS Sniper Wolf's fan base. You have to be kidding me. Jax Films and his wife stay inside. They do not have any kind of direct confrontation. SS Sniper Wolf leaves. Jax Films immediately goes on Twitter and tags Team YouTube and is like, hey, this is unacceptable. This is an unbelievable breach of your terms of service. You have to deplatform her. YouTube does nothing until finally people really pressure them, and then they demonetized SS Sniper Wolf's one channel for like probably a month. SS Sniper Wolf double and triples down on all of this. She's threatening to sue people. Her sister is continuing to nag people and trying to just post through it, and it is not helping at all. All of this culminates in SS Sniper Wolf saying that she's gonna take time off. She gave a formal apology that was very much lawyer speak, is not real at all, and conveniently the time that she's taking off is gonna be the time when she's demonetized. Okay. Jax Films is turning the Jax channel into something that can be even more directly helpful to creators by getting permission from people, and then he will do content around it while properly crediting them. He thinks that'll be a more meaningful way to help people who have potentially been impacted by SS Sniper Wolf stealing their stuff. But nothing meaningful is going to happen to her. She will continue to thrive and be fine and make tons of money on her other channels, and then eventually again on this channel. Her behavior is unhinged, and YouTube does not care. They've made that extremely clear. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the OG YouTuber beef between Jax Films and SS Sniper Wolf. Today we're gonna continue that thread by talking about SS Sniper Wolf versus Azzyland. This is something that's been going on for a long time, but has become more relevant in the last couple of days or so, coming out of the Jax Films drama. So, SS Sniper Wolf, we covered her more in depth last time, but basically she's a very large YouTuber with 34 million subscribers who does predominantly reaction style content. She's known to be pretty problematic. She's had a career full of scandals and problems, etc., but it never really hurts her because she is one of YouTube's favorite creators. So the platform as a whole really doesn't hold her to the same standard it does everyone else. She has a pretty negative perception from other creators due to the lazy nature of her content. She basically just puts other people's content on screen, plays it in its entirety, and goes the whole time. So she's not really adding anything to it, and she doesn't give credit to any of the people whose content she takes. So she just ends up making a ton of money off of stuff she didn't make. Azzyland is another YouTube creator. She has about 13 million subscribers, and she joined the platform in 2015. Her content is very similar to SS Sniper Wolf's. Unlike SS Sniper Wolf, Azzyland does give credit to the creators whose clips she reacts to, and she's been unproblematic on the platform since she joined. You might also notice they look alike, like a lot alike. And wow, their videos look a lot alike. That is the tea. For years, SS Sniper Wolf has been sending a good amount of hate toward Azzyland for being a copycat, for being somebody who has been blatantly ripping off her content and her style. And while Azzyland isn't by any means a small creator, SS Sniper Wolf has 3 times her subscriber base, who are also mostly children and are very likely to want to jump on somebody to protect their faith. This has sent a ton of hate toward Azzyland, and for the most part, she's stayed quiet about it. Until about 2 weeks ago when she did an interview with Nerd City on YouTube. You should go watch it. This is one of the first times she's ever directly talked about it. That interview was also referenced in the Swoop documentary about SS Sniper Wolf, which I also highly recommend that you go watch. watch if you want a lot of detail. But basically, Azzyland categorically denies that she has ever been trying to copy SS Sniper Wolf and says that the campaign against her, Azzyland, by SS Sniper Wolf is a way for Sniper Wolf to get around the fact that she actually took her entire identity from Azzyland in the first place. Extremely strong Creepshow art vibes. Let me know if you want to know more about Creepshow art. That was a big deal when it happened. And there's a good amount of evidence to support that a lot of Azzyland's uploads came well before similar uploads from SS Sniper Wolf. To be clear, I have seen screenshots showing both, either the same video posted first by SS Sniper Wolf or the same video posted first by Azzyland. But something I've noticed is that in a good number of the cases where Azzyland posted second, you're talking about a difference of like a week, maybe a few days. The odds of being able to turn it around that fast, even at the rate with which they do content, is less likely versus with Azzyland. When Azzyland uploads first, SS Sniper Wolf's quote unquote copy video comes like months later or like a good amount of time later. And it feels like more of an intentional choice. I don't know. I could just be saying that, but it sounds like when it's Azzyland coming second, it could just be more coincidental. But the two big pieces for me are one, that SS Sniper Wolf has been leading this charge, which is completely unnecessary when she has the subscriber count she does. The only reason I can think of for why she would be so invested in this idea of like Azzyland being fake and terrible and be so upset about it is if she was guilty over the fact that she knows that she did it. That is pure speculation. That's just how I feel. But the other big piece is the accents. Both Azzyland and SS Sniper Wolf have this weird kind of specific accent that's a little bit subtle, but you can hear it.
It's like high school or college. The timeline is confusing. She looked like a girl boss in her mid-20s.
Turns out this is a Toronto accent. Azzyland was born and raised in Toronto. SS Sniper Wolf was born and raised in America, and when we go back to her first videos on her channel, she does not have that accent.
As some of you know, I just moved into my new house, and you guys wanted me to do a house tour today, so I thought I'd do that. I know it's kind of a mess right now.
She has quite literally, allegedly, stolen that from Azzyland. Azzyland has had that the entire time. To me, that's a smoking gun. Where else would that have come from? It is so specific. Anyway, there's a lot of good content coming out around this now that Azzyland is speaking up. Again, I highly recommend you go check out her interview with Nerd City and also check out the Swoop documentary on YouTube and see what else comes out as this continues to unfold. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the nearly 10-year-old ongoing feud between Azzyland and SS Sniper Wolf over on YouTube. This time we're gonna go way more niche than that and talk about drama in the tabletop gaming community, specifically Warhammer 40k. What is Warhammer 40k? The top line summary is it's a tabletop battling game where you build, paint, and then battle your individual army, which comes from a whole host of potential races and factions in this incredibly dark, horrific future where literally everyone's life is horrible. The lore on 40k is insane. I cannot possibly even describe it. Just the darkest, bleakest future that could ever exist. No one's having a good time. Game is made by a company called Games Workshop, and Games Workshop puts on a number of different tournaments throughout the US every year. And the World Championship of Warhammer 40k was held in Atlanta earlier in November. The tea comes from the actual championship match. I'm going to try and give you some background at a high level. The two guys who went into the championship were a guy named Manny and a guy named John. Not only are both of these guys master players, they are both part of different coaching organizations. So it is quite literally their job to be good at this game. So their status coming out of these tournaments is really important to them. It adds credibility to the organizations that they work for. The tournament style was called double elimination. It means that you have to lose twice to be kicked out. John and Manny play in round one, John wins. Afterwards, it comes out that a judge found out that earlier in the game, John made a move that he was not legally able to make, and it just wasn't caught at the time. And the judges did catch it, and now they're saying, this is what happens. John is known to be a very upstanding guy. He immediately goes over to Manny and concedes the game. Both continue to play. Neither of them loses again. They meet up in the final championship game. Now, since it's double elimination, John has to win twice if he wants to win the entire tournament. Manny has not lost a single game yet. Then it turned out that the judge was actually wrong before, and partially wrong. So John could have won, but John wouldn't necessarily definitely have won. So they didn't really know what to do about that previous win, which shouldn't matter because they both made it to the finals anyway. But it does matter because John has to get Manny out twice and Manny only has to get John out once because of that previous win. This whole thing had been streamed on Twitch, this entire tournament. So this also starts kicking off a bunch of drama between their two coaching companies that they come from. because people were saying they saw Manny's teammates in the Twitch chat of the live feed coming from that Games Workshop was hosting, calling out that this thing had been done incorrectly, which was not actually 100% true. And so that they're the reasons that the judge went over and did this in the first place and set this whole thing up. And then Manny denied an offer John made to say, hey, since we don't really know the outcome of what should have happened coming out of that game, why don't we just make it so it's one and done for both on our final elimination instead of 2 games? And Manny said no to that, even despite everything. And everybody already hates Manny because Manny has been caught on stream cheating before. So immediately they're throwing back and forth at each other. These 2 guys are playing fine, but their teams are talking absolute trash at each other this whole time. Then it goes exactly as you would expect. John wins the first game, does not win the second. Manny has been given the championship. And these coaching groups that these guys come from have been fighting about it on and off ever since. Official statements had to be given by the 2 players. This is for Warhammer Tabletop Gaming. But these guys' teams have been going back and forth at each other on Twitter and Reddit and a bunch of places for days now. And it's dying down, but let me tell you, it is going to happen again. The next tournament's going to bring a new thing. Something like this will always be happening. Because when I tell you the anger management is not the best in these environments, especially the really competitive players, boy drama. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about drama in the tabletop gaming community, specifically surrounding the Warhammer 40K competitive championships this past month. This time we're going to go a bit meta and we're going to talk about drama in the drama community. It's tea about tea. TT. Chai tea! So what is the drama community? Put simply, it's people who report on drama, not unsimilar to this. Jolly Good Ginger is a really good example of a TikTok-based drama channel. His focus is on TikTok stuff. There is a whole community of people who on YouTube, that's their whole thing, is YouTube-based drama. Drama content has gotten really big over the last 5 years or so. It really picked up during lockdowns when people were so hungry for entertainment and connection. On to the tea. Disclaimer. This is messy. I'm going to piece together what it seems like happened based on the correspondence between the people involved, but none of us were actually in between the stuff that happened. This is obviously my best recounting of the situation. I will show you everything that I'm referencing as I reference it, as I do. So who all is involved? We're going to start with the main parties. There are 2 distinct YouTube drama creators and channels. Those 2 guys, Dustin and Nick, are actually a couple now. They weren't originally, and when I first started following them, they weren't. And they've gotten together since then. It's actually really cute. And they have a couple 100,000 subscribers each. They together represent one primary side of this debacle. On the other side, we have Jen Gerard. Put simply, Jen Gerard is a beauty guru. She is the CEO of a company called Gerard Cosmetics. She has a few other businesses as well, but this is the main one people associate with her. Those are the main people, but I'll reference a couple others as we go. Okay, so setting the scene. Jen Gerard, Nick and Dustin. Over the last few years, I'm not sure when, they became friends to the point where Nick and Dustin moved into Jen Gerard's house. They moved in as her roommates and they were paying her rent. All seems like it's going well, and then seemingly out of nowhere in September, Nick drops a very concerning tweet. He says that he and Dustin are fleeing both the house and the state for their safety. He heavily implies that this is the direct result of something that went down between them and Jen. These tweets basically kick off a shitstorm on Twitter for the next several days. What it seems like happened is a couple weeks beforehand, Jen started dating this new guy. His name's Charles. During those 3 weeks, at some point, Nick and Dustin come to Jen about doing a background check on Charles. Jen doesn't seem super interested, but says it's fine. Then, according to Jen, Nick and Dustin went way beyond that and were contacting his ex-wife and potentially other members of his family and were asking for financial documents and legal documents, stuff along those lines. She put a stop to this and was like, this is unnecessary. This creates tension because obviously Jen's dating this guy and, Nick and Dustin live in her house. So she's going to have her boyfriend over to the house. Nick and Dustin aren't comfortable with that because they also live there and they don't trust this guy. At some point, this tension culminates in Charles sending a series of messages to Nick and supposedly leaving a few different comments on some of Dustin's videos, though I can't find this. This appears to have been the breaking point for Nick. This is the thing that led him to want to leave and led them to feel very truly unsafe and targeted. At this point, both sides have blocked each other, and I'm pretty sure Nick and Dustin had moved out, so you would think that would be the end, but they continue to fight on Twitter. Jen gives a very large account of how she saw things go down from her perspective and starts throwing in comments about how the guys weren't paying for rent or utilities or any of the stuff they needed to do and were instead spending their money on DoorDash. And Nick sends a whole flurry of responses to this, talking talking about how there was an agreement related to some of the rent, and for utilities, they need a total estimate from Jen or a bill or something for them to reference so that they can pay her back. So they're still waiting on those totals. So really, it's Jen's fault that she hasn't gotten paid, not their fault, and proving that they've paid her a whole bunch before. Then Charles went on Reddit and wrote this whole dissertation about all the things that he saw happening in the house between Dustin and Nick, and like including illegal activities, and made all these allegations. This man has been with Jen for less than a month. Dustin and Nick are not wrong that it looks sketchy. In response to those allegations, then Nick goes on Twitter and posts a video of him taking a pee test to prove that he's sober. Nick is not the one. They continue to beef on Twitter about this man, with Nick and Dustin saying, we were looking out for her and we care about her, and Jen saying, you guys were just trying to get into my life in a way that I didn't want. Then, in part of the back and forth, we get a new player who is Paige Christie. Paige Christie is another, I would say, former drama YouTuber who turned into a commentary YouTuber. Those sound the same, but they're not. Paige has known both Dustin and Nick for a really long time, and she jumps into the conversation to say back to Jen, your man is the one that started this. Charles is the one who brought this into the public by posting all of those harassing comments under Dustin's videos, allegedly. Again, I can't find those comments anywhere. I don't know what he supposedly said, but that's what started the public version of this. And up until this point, everyone on Twitter and Reddit were pretty much like, hey, besties, maybe go talk about it. Basically just begging them to figure it out, not on the internet. But then, since Paige is so squarely on the side of Nick and Dustin, she chooses to completely disconnect herself from Gerard Cosmetics, Jen's cosmetic brand. Nick, Dustin, and Paige all had affiliate codes for Gerard Cosmetics. They all promoted her brand, etc., and tried to help her because they were previously friends. Nick and Dustin had already distanced themselves, or at least Nick did for sure. But for Paige, it was a little bit more involved because on Jen's website, there are pictures of Paige's aunt used to help model the products, basically. Paige's aunt has unfortunately since passed away, and Paige claims that she has requested multiple times as of this point in the timeline for Jen to take down the pictures of her aunt from the website. Paige has messaged, emailed, tweeted, everything she can think of, and does really look like Jen is making her jump through hoops for some reason. This brought it very much into the public sphere because people were very upset with Jen and Gerard Cosmetics as a whole for doing something like this. Regardless of how you feel, this is an easy thing to fix. And even if you think it's being weaponized against you, which I assume Jen does think that, it's still in bad form, I think. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where I talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Mexico birthday edition. Last time we talked about the falling out between drama YouTubers Nick Snyder and Dustin Daly and beauty guru Jen Gerard. This time we're going to go very, very niche again and talk about book talk versus the NHL. I know that despite this being niche, it did get a ton of mainstream news coverage, so a lot of you may have heard it already, but there was no way I could not cover this. As always, before we start, this is me recounting the situation to the best of my ability based on what I remember and what I was able to find. I will include any and all relevant screenshots as I go. Starting with high-level background, book talk is a subgenre of TikTok for people who like books. Reviews, recommendations, general discussion, etc. It all falls under book talk. There are a bunch of sub-niches within book talk. Today's story specifically centers on the section of book talk which focuses on hockey romance novel, which, yes, is a thing. The main creator from the book talk side of this who is involved is a woman named Kiera Lewis. On the other side, we have the NHL, the National Hockey League of America, specifically the Seattle Kraken, which is a newer NHL team which was established in 2021. The Kraken as an organization is a key player in this, but also a specific player named Alex Wenberg. So what happened? Without getting into too much detail, at some point, I believe last year, Kiera got into hockey romance novels in a big way. Somebody then suggested she actually watch an NHL game, and she did, and had a really good time. People in this community were then starting to make jokes and, thirst traps and stuff around actual NHL players. And Kiera had a number that she liked, but I've seen a couple accounts saying that she was the first person to really focus on Alex Wenberg on the Seattle Kraken. The reason that it ended up kicking off in a really big way, specifically with Alex, is because the Seattle Kraken, their social teams very much leaned into this. They made edits and all this stuff, and they went back and forth with Kiera specifically a number of times. They leaned so much into this that they invited Kiera to a game and gave her a customized jersey. Had to break for a pedicure, but we're back. So this back and forth between book talk and the Seattle Kraken, and specifically with Felicia at the center of the book talk piece of it, continued on for a long time. Like I heard almost a year, until July of 2023, when Alex's wife Felicia posted a message to her Instagram story. In this post, she says that, she understands that her husband's attractive. She really thinks so too. And she doesn't have a problem with people finding him attractive or expressing that in a respectful way, but that over the last months, it's gotten more and more intense to the point where now people are leaving, frankly, very very inappropriate comments on their personal account. And she points out that there are a lot of behaviors that are being treated as acceptable when it comes to her husband, which would not be acceptable were a woman in that position. She then posted a second story saying largely the same type of thing and showing some of the comments on videos of Alex that have started to pop up now as a result of this big fascination from Book Talk. And in that particular screenshot, she doesn't call out Kiera specifically, but the screenshot shows that it is Kiera's video. Kiera was really thrown off by this because no one had said anything to her about this beforehand, and obviously the Kraken as an institution and Alex as part of the Kraken had been leaning into this up until now. So she DMs Felicia and basically says, I'm sorry, I'll delete it. I didn't mean to do any of this. I'm not sure whether or not Felicia ever responded, but as of the time Kiera talked about it, she had not. And basically this kicks off a shitstorm. There are a ton of people saying, like, obviously these are human beings just because they're men, just because they're hockey players. Like, they're not here to be your sexual idols. They're not here to be sexualized by you, etc., etc. You need to leave these people alone. To which Book Talk is like, the Kraken played into it for so long. Why is it an issue now? Like, why are they making such a big deal? She also sexualizes him, which is admittedly a really weird thing to say about somebody's wife. Obviously, she's his wife. The Kraken ended up deleting all of their videos and social posts related to Book Talk or Kiera specifically. They've not made any type of statement on it. They completely distanced themselves. Alex did make a follow-up post to his wife's Instagram post aligning himself with her and saying, like, yeah, it would be nice if you guys could chill out. Basically, this has gotten a little intense. Kiera felt very, very targeted in this and made a number of posts defending herself, most specifically directed at the Seattle Kraken, who completely ghosted her. Not saying she didn't understand why they felt this way. She just said, no one told me, I thought it was okay. I feel like I'm being very vilified right now for something that I did not intend any harm. Book Talk came very strongly to Kiera's defense, pointing out things like she's a very large Black creator on the TikTok app and what the dynamics around that look like, but also making some kind of silly claims like the idea that the Kraken didn't have any fans or needed Book Talk to do, which, you know, it's a major NHL team. They don't need that. There was a good amount of back and forth for a while, but both parties have pretty much distanced themselves from one another. Ultimately, to me, the people who handled this worse were the Kraken as an organization. There's no way this was brought to be public without Alex and or his wife going to the organization first to say, hey, we're not comfortable with this. They literally made custom thirst traps of him for Book Talk multiple times. And yeah, Kiera and Book Talk went hard. There's definitely this aspect of like not remembering these are real human beings with real feelings. But the Kraken was actively encouraging this and co-signing it and telling her, it's fine. We love this. So I completely understand why she felt very confused. And especially the way she immediately responded to Felicia after Felicia's post leads me to believe that, like, if someone had said something to her early on, like, hey, we're not super comfortable, she probably would have backed off. But that's my opinion.
Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the breakup between Book Talk and the NHL Kraken in Seattle. This time we're going to talk about drama in the cosplay community, specifically competitive cosplay. For those unfamiliar, cosplay can be summarized to the uninitiated as really, 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 really good dress up. Like, instead of I want to dress up as this person, it's I want to be this person. Probably how I would explain it. It takes a ton of planning, a ton of technique, and just work, so many hours of work to do. Most of the time, all or the majority of the actual costume itself is completely handmade. That also includes accessories. You also have to do makeup and hair and like wig maintenance in some cases. Like, there's a lot. So there's a whole community who really likes to do this, and then there's a subset of them who compete at different conventions throughout the year. But there isn't just one winner for the entire contest. It's broken out by categories based on skill level and other things as well. And there are different types of awards that you can get. So like you can get best in your category or a particular call out for a particular thing or best overall, etc. So what happened? Recently there was a cosplay contest. I believe it was at Fan Expo. A particular cosplayer by the name of Mike Evil Fett entered the competition at Fan Expo and did not win. Afterward, he joined a podcast of 4 other men. All 5 of them seemed to be somewhere between their 30s and 50s. They talk about their experiences at the expo and then they talk about the cosplay competition. Mike makes it very clear that he is very upset that he didn't win and he considers that to be a misjudgment. They all then collectively, I want to make it clear, like Mike is the one who lost and is the one who's most upset, but all 5 of them are either actively participating or co-signing everything being said. So this is on all of them. But they proceed to talk about how the judges panel was entirely 22-year-old college girls and that they were too young to be able to have enough experience to properly judge a cosplay contest. They were friends with one another and they weren't taking it seriously. They were only looking to judge well the young, hot guys and or their friends' kind of contradictory, but okay. One of them went even so far as to say that the reason Mike didn't win, or at least part of the reason, was because he, the guy speaking, was sitting right behind the judges and he had been a dick to one of the judges. So then she was mad at him, and then when Mike came out and he stood up and cheered for him, that judge just went, no, I'm not gonna judge that guy well. But then he proceeds to pull out his phone, show the judge's contact information, and literally tell people to harass them. Which one of the other guys goes, no, don't do that, man. But then proceeds to not blur out their contact information before you uploaded the video. That is so shitty. Anyway, this video went up a couple days ago. It's gotten a ton of attention, but the guys' responses have all been to just double and triple down. People have been rightly pointing out that this is a big no-no in the community. Like, being a really sore loser like this will get you banned, and not just from the convention you were a sore loser about. Like, you could get banned from all of them. People also came to the defense of the other cosplayers at this particular contest because these guys had been shitting on so many of them. Whoever manages the channel, I don't believe that that's Mike, is liking every critical comment, so they're clearly not taking it that seriously. There have been a few videos made on TikTok about it that have gotten pretty big, and Mike has sent harassment to at least one TikToker, I'll tag below, who has a lot of really good insight on the whole thing. Her initial video is the first one I saw, and it's a really good summary. And if you happen to be Mike specifically watching this, instead of sending me an angry DM, why don't you go ahead and think about some of the criticisms and feedback that you've been given, and think about how you and your friends approach your hobbies, because you guys are the exact type of guys who keep women out of these spaces because of how insanely toxic y'all are. Try and be better. Truly. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities that you may not be a part of. And you are probably not a part of this one, because we're talking about Neopets today. There is so much background, but I'm gonna try and keep it to the key points. Neopets is one of the first online games to ever get popularity in the late 90s. I remember when Neopets came out, what I did not realize until quite literally a few days ago is that it is still being played in mass. A really rough comparison seems like it would be like a Pokemon plus more type of game. It's collection and you've got your little guys and stuff, but you also go and you can, I think, fight them, but then also there's games you can play to get money in the game, which can be used to then buy items, and you can trade from each other to each other back and forth. That's important. Any game that is set up in such a way that it is possible theoretically, either in or out of game, to sell things from person to person creates an economy in that game. This happened in Neopets, but I want to emphasize that is not at all the only case. Almost every MMORPG has this problem. Even like Diablo 2 had this problem. So now that there's a Neopets economy, and because it just kind of never died, that economy lives on a separate, also incredibly old looking website that's amazing. Then on the accelerated timeline that it's on in this little microcosm, the economy goes through what you inevitably see as like a late stage capitalistic collapse. The way this actualized for Neopets was there was a group of people who, for various reasons, had stronger connections to like the inside Neopets team compared to the rest of the players. Through those connections, they were able to get what they needed to identify and hoard all of the best possible items that would be either the rarest or the strongest or whatever. And then once you own them all, you can set whatever price you want. So in doing this, they were able to functionally break the economy because they had such unfathomable wealth compared to the other players. What makes this even funnier is that people can't even, if they wanted to try to make the money to buy one of your ridiculously expensive items, the game is so broken because the website hasn't been properly maintained that it would be almost impossible to do. But then December comes. To celebrate the season, the Neopets team released on December 1st an advent calendar. My high level understanding is it's like any other advent calendar. You get one thing a day and there's a random chance it's any one of a certain number of items that they've pre-selected to be as part of the event. But what fucked everything up was because this cute little attack pea. Look at this little guy. This little cutie patootie is also the second best battle support item, apparently. So, because it was one of the items that the connected group of players had hoarded, and people could start getting it in the advent calendar, it's fucked up their whole economy. So what most people were doing is if they couldn't use it, they knew they could get money for it, and so they would sell theirs immediately on that website. As regular players are selling them,
The rich guys are buying them up as fast as they can at really, really high bids to make sure they get it, all of them. So like if it was being sold for 20 million something, they'd bid like 80 million. And there had been rumors going around supposedly that the rich people were trying to have the P removed from the advent calendar. Then someone posted on that separate selling website that someone in this rich group who were connected had confirmed that it was going to be removed or had been removed from the advent calendars. That causes the price of the attack P to skyrocket again, and the rich guys then all sell it at like a huge, huge profit. Then that post gets pulled down, and it turns out people are still getting the attack P in their advent calendars. And my understanding of this is that the timeline for this whole thing from when the post went up to when it was pulled, we're talking hours. And like a good number of these rich guys are directly connected to this separate site too. And it looks like they got away with it. Like nothing seems to be coming out of it. Supposedly the Neopets dev team is trying to find a way to fix the effed up economy or put in some kind of regulation, but I haven't heard anything else. If you listen to this whole thing, congratulations, you now understand how the stock market works. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the insider trading happening within the Neopets community, and I do have something I need to address about that post. In that video, I used a piece of art which I thought was official art for the game. It is not. Their name is Sophie Scruggs. I'll tag them below. They also have a website where they sell really cute stuff from a bunch of different fandoms. Please go check it out. I bought some stuff myself and I was gonna wait until I got it to be able to show it to you as well so you could see what their work looks like, but their shop is actually, I think, closing for the season the 10th, so you still have time. Really good for like stocking stuffers and stuff, so go check them out, please. I have obviously not been as rigorous as I need to be and will be going forward so that this does not happen again. I'm so sorry to Sophie for doing this. My husband's an artist, I completely understand, and it's not acceptable. And generally, if I do fuck shit, please call me out on it. I wanna be doing things the right way, and if I've done something wrong, I want to do whatever I can to make it right. Now back into Tea World, the Neopets drama can pretty much be summarized as, your Neopets are still alive, hoping you'll come back. You lost the login some time ago or just fell out of love with the game, but they still love you. They're not like Tamagotchis, they never die. The website's still there, they're still there. They're still starving. They've been starving. And they'll keep starving. Today we're going back into the book land, but not book talk this time, book Twitter, where it has been alleged with a good amount of evidence that debut author Kate Corain has made a ton of fake accounts on Goodreads to completely review bomb other writers, a good number of whom are also debut authors is my understanding. And of course, the majority of the victims are POC authors where Kate is white. This allegation was broken on Twitter by another author, Shiran J. Zhao, who I will tag below. They have a video about this with every possible detail on their page. Please go watch that. But here's what I understand to have happened at a high level over the last week or so. Recounting to the best of my ability with screenshots that I have, as always. It seems that generally a lot of these authors had a Slack channel where they all talked together and they'd all been in contact getting ready for their debut. It seems maybe over the last few weeks, these authors had started to notice that there were weird reviews coming in and putting the pieces together that there were fake accounts doing this. The way they were able to make the connection to Kate specifically was that all of the accounts that were giving bad reviews to all of their books were also giving 5-star reviews to Kate's book in a bunch of different lists. You would have to really go out of your way to do this, is my understanding. So Shiran goes to Twitter, vague tweets about it. They didn't want to ruin this person's career. But then, as conversation starts about it, Kate shows up and starts tweeting as though she's one of the victims. That was apparently the straw for Shiran because she then dropped a Google Doc with 31 pages of screenshots. And we start seeing screenshots from that Slack that they're all in, where Kate is denying doing this, saying she has no idea what's going on, she's trying to figure out, and then comes in saying that she found out that it was actually a friend of hers. Someone that she knew from the Raylo community, which is where she started, I think, who was a huge fan of hers and apparently just decided to do this to support her debut. Kate then shares screenshots of a supposed Discord conversation between her and Lily where Lily admits to doing this. But you can immediately tell that something's been doctored because the timestamps don't make any sense in the Discord messages. And when people asked if they could talk to Lily and get her information, she said her Discord and Twitter were both deactivated and there was no way to contact her. And Kate's former Raylo community friends allegedly came forward and were like, we never knew anyone named Lily. This then, of course, blows up on Twitter. Kate locks down her accounts, and the authors affected, who are very rightly upset, start talking about it. one of whom is a POC author by the name of Bethany Baptiste. And she made a tweet basically telling everybody, like, we're trying to figure out what we want to do here, in which she refers to Kate as an albino snake in the henhouse. My understanding is this is a common Southern Black culture term, obviously taking snake in the henhouse, but then albino snake, white snake in the henhouse. You get it. But then another author named Meredith came forward who is friends with Kate and accused Bethany of being ableist because of the term albino snake. Meredith herself has albinism and it is a disability. For example, it can cause blindness. To which Bethany responds, I was obviously talking about Kate, who is the person who is accused of doing this, not you. And again, this is a common Southern Black phrase for people who are snakes but white. It's not referring to anyone who actually has albinism, which I tend to agree. Meredith claims that this is unrelated to what's going on with Kate, like her response to this, but it really just seems like she's defending Kate and trying to redirect the conversation away from Kate, which is working, by the way. There are now already articles talking about both Kate and Bethany as part of this whole thing, when Bethany is a victim of Kate's. As of now, it also seems that Goodreads is limiting the ability to give certain reviews to Kate's book, though I don't believe they've done anything to rectify yet what's happened to the victims. And Kate's agency, which also represents at least some of the victims, has not said anything yet. Here are the authors affected. Please, if you can, take the time and go give them a follow, check out their books. Any way you can support them, I'm sure would be hugely appreciated. More important than going after Kate is making sure these authors get the recognition they deserve. And again, go check out Sharon's video for even more juicy detail than this, because damn. Hello and welcome back to Niche Tea, where we talk about drama happening in communities you may not be a part of. Last time we talked about the Goodreads review bombing scandal that's still going on and has not been resolved over on book Twitter. Today we're going to talk about drama in the history community. Starting from the top, what is the history community? This refers to the group of creators across any and all social media, really, who predominantly post about history-based content. Pretty much anyone who's repackaging historical content for educational and entertainment purposes. Because this type of content can be so meaty, the biggest presence of this community is on YouTube. There are dozens and dozens of different channels where you can learn about all kinds of historical stuff. It's very cool. Now, the drama is happening in the history community, but it did not start there. It started about a week ago when a 4-hour expose video was dropped by one of my absolute favorite YouTubers of all time, H-Bomber Guy. I cannot possibly explain how much I love this man's content. His videos are so entertaining and thoughtful and well-structured and funny.
Do you cure the plague? You can't. Fuck you. Don't catch the plague, shithead.
You don't need to know what he's talking about. You're gonna have a good time. And I can hear you through the screen saying, that sounds great, Caroline. I love really long videos from entertaining people. How would you describe the type of content that he makes in terms of the topics? And
That's an excellent question. I have no idea.
the only way I could think of to summarize it would be like hyperfixation deep dives. You truly have no clue what's coming until it comes. But clearly he'd been thinking about H1 for a very long time. There's so much thought and detail that goes into it. Anyway, I'll stop. Go subscribe to him. So, H-Bomber Guy drops a video. 4 hours long, as I mentioned, and it's about plagiarism, specifically in the YouTube space. So this video would fall under the commentary genre. And the video really is just chapter after chapter of grueling, in-depth takedown of different YouTubers for what looks to be repeated blatant plagiarism. But specifically, I'm literally looking at the video right now, the entire back half of this 4-hour video, 2 out of 4 hours were about one person. And that person is James Somerton. James Somerton is a history YouTuber, specifically one that focuses on LGBT history. And not only does H-Bomber Guy go through and do a very thorough account of every time he's plagiarized that he can find, but he also details the harm it caused to the original creators of that content, who were also LGBT. Now, this video on its own kind of dropped like a bomb, right? Looking at it now, it was 8 days ago and it's at 8.9 million views. Not uncommon for him, honestly. And that sucks by itself. But then, the next day, another video specifically focusing on James Somerton was dropped by, of all people, Todd in the Shadows. Todd in the Shadows is another sizable YouTuber and he does create long-form content, but it is almost exclusively about music. That is his whole deal. He is very squarely in the music genre. This video about James Somerton was called I Fact Checked the Worst Video Essayist on YouTube, which means that James pissed him off enough that he made a 1 hour and 42-minute video specifically calling out all the places that he lied. He also talks about in the video how he and H Bomber Guy were working on this at the same time, obviously, and how they worked it out so that Todd would post his second, and that he doesn't cover the plagiarism at all. This is just lies on top of the stuff H Bomber Guy already said. And then, remember how I said that H Bomber Guy's video was taking down a bunch of different YouTubers? One of those was another commentary YouTuber named Illuminati. Illuminati is somebody who's been in the spotlight recently for a lot of fuck shit, like being accused of trying to start a company town, or weaponizing their partners on a live note against them. Awesome. All alleged, but convincingly so. So she's been in the spotlight a lot. That's a whole separate topic. So, because she was included in it, the entire commentary community came and wanted to have a take on it as well. They probably would have come anyway. But then they get exposed to the James Somerton stuff, and now they all want to talk about it. I'm literally in the middle of watching a 2+ hour Hassan reaction to it. This type of never-ending content spiral is the stuff of my nightmares. But then also, there's a lot more interesting conversation happening among history YouTubers about plagiarism in general. There's a really interesting video by a creator named Veritas et Caritas, I'm probably butchering that, who is also a history YouTuber and says that this is a widespread problem. There are tons of people out there like James Somerton. In their video, they talk about how there are tons and tons of channels that are functionally just using history content as content farm material. And that as a whole, viewers especially are very forgiving of plagiarism when it comes to history-based content because history is seen as belonging to all of us. Apparently, a somewhat common tactic is to make a new channel, go to Wikipedia, pick a topic, take the Wikipedia page, put it into ChatGPT, it'll generate a script for you. You then read the script or even have AI do the script, and you can have AI build the visuals or do just lazy visuals with it, and then you can generate videos constantly. And you copy the sources from Wikipedia into your video, and ta-da! Or you don't source it at all. People, again, don't seem to really care. And beyond major things like that, it still just seems to be a problem. They mentioned in their video there's a Slack group they belong to for history YouTubers to talk about plagiarism and citing sources and etiquette and stuff like that. And it's been significantly more active in the last few days since the H Bomber Guy video dropped. As of now, James Somerton has thrown a smoke bomb and disappeared into the woods. All of his content on his YouTube channel is gone. All of his social media seems to be deactivated. He did reportedly post a message to his Patreon, to his supporters, apologizing and saying he'll provide more detail when his emotions are brought back down. He's not trying to deny anything that I can see, and he does seem to be at least somewhat remorseful, but I don't know how you come back from this, to be honest. Please go watch the videos that I mentioned on the topic. I'll put them up here again for your reference. And go subscribe to H Bomber Guy for the love of God.